Good morning and welcome to the meeting of the Harbours Advisory Committee today, Wednesday the 12th of June. For the benefit of the public, I am Councillor Rob Hughes, Chair of the meeting. The meeting is being live streamed and the recording will be available to view on the website after the meeting. Can I remind everyone that when you are speaking, please speak directly into the microphone so that you can be clearly heard and seen for the members to introduce themselves when they first speak. For information, supporting officers involved in the meeting include Ken Buchan, Head of Environment and Wellbeing, James Radcliffe, Bridport and Lyme Regis Harbour Master, Ed Carter, Harbours Manager, Matthew Penny, Service Manager, FCERM, Claire Connolly, Harbour Office Manager, Laura Altry, Legal Business Partner, Kevin Evans, Senior Accountant, Lindsay Watson, Senior Democratic Services Officer, and Joshua Kennedy, Democratic Services Officer. And I'd also like to welcome all the new members of the Harbours Advisory Committee. And if I could ask them to introduce themselves, starting with the new brief holder, please.
Thank you very much. My name's Councillor John Andrews. I am from Sherborne, very close to Milburn Port, so you'll appreciate my closeness with Harbour. But no, I've in my brief of Place Commission Services, Harbours comes under that as well as etc. And I'm very pleased to be in the position. I'm already learning a lot.
Thank you very much, Councillor Andrews. And if I could go to your colleague next to you, Sally.
I'm Councillor Sally Holland, covering Chesilbank Ward.
And Ray, if I could ask you to...
Yes, I'm Councillor Ray Bryan. I'm the ward member for St Leonard's and St Ives, the most beautiful area in the rural area of Dorset.
And now, if I could come to the independent members, please, starting with Richard.
Yeah, good morning. Richard Tinsley, independent member on the Harbours Advisory Committee.
Mark Saxby, independent member of the committee, been in post for 1 year. Thank you.
And at the back of the room, we have Councillor Mike.
Yeah, hello there, Mike Baker. I'm the councillor for West Purbeck.
Last but not least, over to Peter.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody. Peter Dickinson, ward member for Littlemore and Preston, living in the best coastal town in the country, Weymouth.
Thank you very much for those introductions, everybody. Moving forward to item 1 on the agenda, and Josh, can you turn?
Thank you. So, so we have apologies today from Councillor Sarah Williams and also from Philip Thickness.
Thank you very much, Josh. Item 2 on the agenda is minutes of the Harbours Advisory Committee, which was held on the 6th of March. And can we please confirm that the minutes are a true record?
Apologies. Having been present, yes, I can confirm they're a record of the meeting.
Yes, and I'm able to second that.
Thank you very much. Item 3 on the agenda is declarations of interest. Do any members have an interest that they may wish to share? Yes, Richard.
Yes, I hold a berth on the Weymouth Marina.
Thank you. Anybody else have an interest they need to declare? No. Moving on, public participation. There are no public questions for the meeting today, so we can move on from there to item 5, Chairman's report, which as I'm new to the post, there's not a lot to report, but I'd like to thank the previous Chair, Councillor Mark Roberts, for his dedication and hard work over the last 4 years as Chairman, bringing forward the Harbours strategy and shaping the business plan, which will take all 3 harbours forward. My thanks also go to Councillor Ray Bryan, who was the previous brief holder for Harbours. Ray knows all too well just how much work is needed within our harbours across the county to protect our towns from climate change. The officers of the council must also be thanked for all their hard work behind the scenes over the past 5 years. Thanks also go to Mr. Lee Hardy, who stood down from the unelected members of the committee in order to stand in the recent elections. And welcome to all our new members, including the Vice Chair, who's not here today, Sarah Williams, who will be back with us for the next meeting. To the independent members of the committee, welcome back. It's good to see you again. And to say thanks for the help and support that you have provided to the committee in the past. Since taking on the role as chairman in May, I've been pleased to work with Councillor John Andrews as our new brief holder for the Highways and Harbours, and I congratulate him and welcome him to his new role. We met Councillor Andrews to introduce him to both Ed Carter, our harbour master in Weymouth, and James Radcliffe from West Bay and Lyme Regis at the Harbours office in Weymouth. Sarah and I had a meeting with James Radcliffe on Tuesday the 21st of May to see for ourselves the ongoing repairs to the harbour wall in West Bay, discuss the other issues that he is dealing with across both harbours on a daily basis. I also dropped into the Lyme Regis office to introduce myself to the team working there that day, to Sam, Steve and Becky. On Wednesday, the 22nd of May, I attended the Weymouth Harbours Consultative Group meeting and was giving a warm welcome. I look forward later in the year to attending both the Lyme Regis and the West Bay Consultative meetings. And you should have all received a copy of the business plan and the Dorset Council Harbours strategy. If not, please let me know. And finally, I look forward to collaborating with you all over the months ahead as we work with our harbour masters and their excellent teams of staff who manage our 3 harbours across Dorset. And this brings me to the end of my updates for now as chair. I look forward to our meetings together and the work we will be undertaking on the Harbours Advisory Committee in the future. Thank you. Item 6 is the Harbour Consultative Group minutes. And is Simon available online or no? So we'll move on from those to, I believe Nick Marks is online today from Lyme Regis and will be presenting to us.
I am, Chairman. Good morning. Can you hear me? Just thumbs up.
Yes, we can hear you. Good morning.
Right. Okay. Yes, the Lyme Regis Harbour Consultative Group met on the 9th of May, and you will find the minutes in the reports pack. I won't go into those in too much depth, just to pick out a few points, if I may. We received a number of reports from our harbour user groups. The Sailing Club and Sea School are planning a full season of activity on the water with training courses and a full racing programme from the harbour. The Gig Club reported that the Masters Regatta will be held again from the harbour on the 19th of August. The Powerboat Club reiterated their desire to have personal watercraft operate from Lyme Regis and await Dorset Council's guidance on how to proceed with their proposal. And the RLI are planning a full programme of events based around the harbour for its Lifeboat Week during starting on the 27th of July and going on to the 2nd of August. Our non-boating activity group advised that the Lime Splash Water Polo Championships will take place in the harbour in the pool on the 24th and 26th of August, and the Lime Splash Swim from the harbour over to Charmouth will take place on the 8th of September. We also received at the last HCG meeting an update from Dorset Coast Forum on the Phase 5 environmental improvements to the Cobb. Now, this update included a report that there's currently a shortfall of some £2 million in the funding secured for the structural repair works to the Cobb, and that causes us some concern as to how that shortfall will be made up and what impact any delay may have on the Cobb. We are concerned about the Cobb structure itself and how it will stand up to another winter of storms. The vital repair work, is currently scheduled to start in autumn 2025, and we're very keen to make sure that happens and make sure everyone else makes sure that happens, as there's a clear risk to the Cobb structure and its integrity. And that, Chairman, concludes my update, other than the minutes which are included in the pack.
Thank you very much, Nick, for that update. Much appreciated. And now we can move on. We have Tim Day representing Weymouth Consultative Group.
It was a rather long meeting that you attended. And I'm just taking there's three themes I think came out of it. The first theme of points was about the administration and conditions of the council moorings above the town bridge. A number of points were raised, and the Harbour Master Ed took them all on board, and I think hopefully they'll have a satisfactory answer, except possibly for the VAT charges on electricity, which was a red herring, I think, or was it a rabbit hole, which we disappeared down for quite some time. The second sort of theme is just general navigation and harbour usage. There were reports of pot boys starting to multiply in the harbour entrance, and also now it's getting towards some of the dreaded jet skis have reappeared, and there was a bit of reports of misconduct, which may be not helped by the fact that the speed limit signs have not yet gone up on the pleasure pier. But we've been reassured that will happen in due course, and also that jet skis are going out to see the fireworks in the evening, and then they're unlit and are a bit of a navigational hazard. The Harbour Master said he'd step up patrols on that event. The third theme is that Weymouth, because it's virtually totally surrounded except for the entrance by roads, we have a lot of issues with the roads, even though it's not really part of our area. We'd appreciate if somebody from the Highways Committee could attend these meetings and possibly answer some questions or give the participants reassurance. For instance, there's the block drain below the town bridge, which is at least a hardy perennial now, and there was a suggestion we should get it a birthday cake because it's still not been fixed. There was interaction in the same area with the Quayside music festivals, which the council, Kate Wheeler and Ed, said they'd take away. The cruise ships shuttle buses, which you may have seen in the press, are a bit of a problem in Weymouth. There's a suggestion they're going to go to the old demolished council site, which is now car parking. People said, well, yeah, that's fine, but some of the businesses haven't been consulted that well over it. So there was a bit of, it's one of those things I don't think you're going to satisfy anybody. I'm sure the people on the road where they park at the moment will be very happy to see the back of them, but some of the traders might not be because it might reduce their footfall. The old mooring rings came up. These are the big pieces of metal you see littering the quayside, and that they are historic artifacts, but they do get abused, and also the dray wagon tends to run over the top of them and damage the quay as well. So it would be very useful if we could have somebody from the harbour, from highways, sorry, there at the meetings or attending online. Ed is no doubt going to give you a comprehensive report, so I'll be quiet. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. To make sure we're accurate in what we're putting out, on page 16 of the report, it refers to Mr. Councillor Ray Bryans. Bryan is spelled B-R-Y-A-N, not B-R-I-A-N, just for the purpose of accuracy.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bryan. I had seen that myself. If I could now move on to Richard, please.
Yes, just a question. You noted a number of navigational issues relating to pot markers in the sort of exit to the harbour, and also potential jet ski hazards being unlit. Are these being reported through the incident reporting system? Because that would really help capture data points.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, so we have had some reports of pot boys in the entrance, and our staff are instructed, they do keep an eye on these, and they're told to, if they're able to identify the pot markers, to contact the fisherman, that owns them immediately. If they're unidentifiable, I've given a standing instruction for them to be removed immediately. It is within the general directions that there should be no pot markers within a 200-metre radius of the harbour entrance, and I myself was out at the weekend, and the area was looking clear. So while it is an ongoing issue that we keep an eye on, we try and keep tabs on it. With regards to the issues with unlit vessels at night, we are going to be having some further patrols, especially around the fireworks displays this summer. There are already a local notice to mariners out showing the dates of those displays. But yeah, we fully intend on having a vessel on the water at all times to make sure that everyone's complying with the regulations. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. I've no doubt the issues are being dealt with. I think my broader point was, could we ask the consultative group just to promote incident reporting, just to capture the data? So, it's all very well taking it to a quarterly meeting, but I think if we're capturing data on the database and seeing how the trends are working, that would be really helpful. So if I could ask the consultative committee just to promote that incident reporting, which is now an online system, it would really help the harbours, I think, just track issues and trend issues as well.
Thank you for that point. We did say at the meeting, it's like reporting to the police. If you don't report it, it never happened. So, yes, we did encourage the people around the table to do that. Possibly we could do something to push something else out to the general harbour users. If you see something, report it.
Yeah, I think in my experience, you just got to drip the message through, and it takes time, doesn't it? Just encourage people to do it, and because I know the harbour teams work really hard at getting to grips with these, but if they've got that data, it's really helpful for them. So if you can just encourage people to use it, even small incidents, it just helps build up the data.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would absolutely echo that. Thank you. Yes, would request that everyone reports things wherever they see them back to the Harbour Office. Incident reporting and risk assessment form an intrinsic part of our port marine safety and our safety management system. So yes, I would welcome that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, for those comments. If we could move forward then to item 7 on the agenda, which is Harbour Masters updates. And I'd like to introduce, please, our Bridport Harbour Master, James Radcliffe, to start off with Bridport and West Bay before moving on to Lyme Regis. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. Starting with the stats for Bridport, they show the season tickets are comparable to this year, but with the weather we've had in April and May, the day launches and visiting boat nights are down. Our boat lifting is higher than this time last year due to the weather delaying many of the vessels going in until after the 1st of April. The shops remains steady and is well stocked for the new season, and the diving airfields have had a good start to the season with strong support from the commercial users. Our mooring occupancy at Bridport is 86% for private and 57% for commercial. Applications to join the waiting list are continuously being received, and should the vessel be suitable for available mooring, we can offer straight away. The commercial mooring waiting list is being going through currently, and we're checking the list for the vessel details before allocation. The stats for Lyme Regis. Like Bridport, they're comparable with the season tickets and low day launches and overnight stays for the same reason with the poor weather. Our boat lifting is comparable to last year. The quayside parking has seen a large increase on the income, and this is mainly down to the compounds that were previously leased to the Fishermen's and Traders Associations. They have been taken back under the control of the harbour, and this has allowed us to deal directly with the customers, charging them the same fees we were for our own compounds. Mooring allocation is down compared to this time last year, but is up compared to the end of the previous year. This is a similar picture to Bridport and many other harbours across the southwest. Although we're having requests for moorings all the time, so hoping the picture will improve as the season moves on. The mooring occupancy for private is 80% and for commercial is 88%. Our staff training, there's some planned courses for staff to be looking at day skipper courses, first aid and powerboat courses throughout this season. The harbour consultative groups both met in late April and early May and due to meet again in October. Our harbour revision order, we're currently still waiting for a response from the MMO, so have no further update to give. Harbour works. The dredging operations both harbours were completed in time for Easter, and following the post-dredge survey, some areas of concern were raised, and talks have been going on with Royal Smalls, the contractor, for them to come back. They have in fact arrived back yesterday and are due to start work this Friday at Bridport. At Lyme Regis, the harbour storage building finally started work in April. As you can see, some of the pictures are in the report to show the progress, and it's now at a stage where the slate roof has been fitted this week, and completion is hoping for July. At Bridport, works to install the new tow to the wall were completed ahead of schedule, allowing the kiosk to open in advance of Easter. More details on the next stages will be reported on from the F-17. Previously reported, we had issues from the consultative groups. We had issues with litter around West Bay. And on the report, you can see pictures of the new houses that have been built by the harbour team. And working with the Waste Partnership, these would be emptied by harbour staff and the Waste Partnership team. And we hope to have more out by the end of this month. On accidents and Port Marine Safety Code issues, Bridport has suffered from the storms in March, April. The slipway area has seen some large waves engulf the area coming over the seawall. On 2 occasions, with waves from different directions, has resulted in damage to vessels and pontoons which were stored in the area. Due to the change in the weather pattern, where this seems to be happening more frequently, we are talking to car parks for future options on storing in that area. On a separate occasion, a leisure vessel on its mooring managed to become snagged under the ladder with an incoming tide, and unfortunately the vessel sank. Staff were called in from home and managed to get the vessel uprighted and afloat again within the hour, and assistance was given to the owner the following day to get it out on its trailer. At Lyme Regis, the storms placed approximately 1,000 tonne of stone from Monmouth Beach onto the Cobb Causeway and into the harbour, and harbour staff and contractors spent Good Friday clearing the stone to make it usable for the remaining of the Easter weekend. Stone and wave action also exposed the power cable that supplies the Cobb buildings, and in May, the power cable shorted and caused sparks to come from the Cobb surface, leaving the buildings without power. National Grid were called and to come and repair the cable, and as you see by some of the pictures on the report, you can see the burnt concrete and the repair to the cable. This is about the 5th time this cable's failed in the last few years, emphasising the need for the new ducting and upgrade of the utilities to the as part of the Phase 5 works. For aids to navigation are all in working order, and no further inspections have taken place since the last reporting. On the report, it says report requires an unlighted beacon still to be painted. This has actually now been complete. Our harbour watch schemes were launched at both harbours. They were opened by the Dorset Crime Commissioner, David Sidwick, alongside with Councillor Mark Roberts. And they had representatives from the harbour consultative groups attending for people to meet them. Both events were very well attended, and there's hopefully to have some follow-up events later in the year. And as you can see from the bottom of the report, there's a full list of maritime events for this calendar for this coming season. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, James, for that comprehensive report. We're going to move forward to the Weymouth Harbour report, and our Harbour Manager, Ed Carter, will be reporting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. For Weymouth, our let analysis is following a very similar picture to the other harbours. And while the number of let berths in March in Weymouth very closely mirrored the past 2 years, during April, the interest from new customers has not been as strong as previously seen. The small boat market, which is vessels around 6 metres in length overall or less, has seen a steady decline in activity over the past few years, with the majority of people giving up berths ahead of the coming season being small vessel owners. We are continuing to take inquiries, and vacancies are being filled wherever possible. As we can see, we do have the expected positive trend for this time of year. With the cost of living pressures continuing, it's likely that interest in berthing for small vessels is going to remain low for the foreseeable future. Interest in larger vessel berthing does remain strong, with vessels of 10 metres or more joining our ever-present waiting list. From the commercial berths, out of our 84 commercial berths, our let remains high at 91%, with the remaining 7 spaces being less popular due to access issues, for example, berths on the midstream pontoon or size restrictions at the berth. We've recently made some adjustments to our berths and providing extra mooring points to make sure we're making the best use of the space available. Moving on to the statistics, there's an end-of-year summary here for you, just looking how we finished up at the end of 23-24. Our visiting leisure craft revenue did finish just about ahead of the previous year at 1.4%. However, we continue to see lower than previous usage, especially in the slipway, and jet ski permit revenue being down at 15%. And while the number of bridge lifts and the number of transiting vessels is very similar, slightly lower activity seeing there as well. The number of non-resident fishing vessels continues to strengthen. However, I believe this is partly down to some of the changes we've made in our reporting at the Harbour Office and the way we are keeping an eye on all these numbers. Looking at the figures for 24-25, I'd like to kind of clarify a couple of points around this, because I don't quite like seeing so many figures here in red. April has definitely not been our friend this year. And actually, when we're comparing the figures for the same period last year, it's April that's letting us down. When we look at May, for example, against May last year, we're actually 15% ahead on our visitor revenue in Weymouth. I think it's clear that this is not an issue at the moment that's confined to the 3 Weymouth harbours or even to Dorset. This is an issue we're seeing across the southwest. There's been various articles in the news recently, and certainly this morning, the Office for National Statistics reporting no growth in the UK economy at all during April. Again, they're citing particularly wet weather as affecting consumer spending. And the lack of trade here at the moment is reflective of the current situation across the southwest. The Southwest Tourism Alliance reporting that bookings are down across the region, and recently the chairman of the Visit Cornwall reported to the BBC that numbers for tourism in Devon and Cornwall were expected to be between 15 and 20% down on a normal year. So we are, in Dorset, we are by no means out of the ordinary here. The weather recently has been much better, and indications are that towards the end of June, the weather is, high pressure will become more dominant, and fingers crossed for a nice sunny summer. There's still plenty of time to turn things around, so we'll keep you appraised on how the season goes. Moving on to harbour operations and port marine safety. Again, it's a bit of a stuck record, this, but the beginning of the year has been characterised by heavy rain and strong winds. Easter was extremely early this year as well, and activity in the harbour remained low, with the fishing fleet making the most of any weather window that presented itself. Reports from all 3 harbours show that business for the charter and trip boat sectors and the shoreside traders is generally quiet, and while there are plenty of visitors around, the continued cost of living pressures, people are being quite economical with their money. As the weather's improved and turned warmer, certainly in Weymouth we've hosted some very large yacht rallies. Of particular note here, we had one in mid-April, which was 54 vessels from the junior offshore group. You can see a picture below there of just what that looks like on our pontoons, and they took up almost all of our visitor pontoon space in one go. It was really, really nice to hear some extremely positive comments from that rally, and we've had other great comments as well recently. It's really great to see those reports. It's high praise, and I'm incredibly proud of the team at Weymouth, to hear such glowing reviews. On May the 14th, to mark the 200th anniversary of the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, there was a parade of sail in the late afternoon. The parade was attended by all manner of craft, with over 60 vessels taking part, including Weymouth lifeboats, classic sailing boats, modern power and sailcraft, and all sorts of smaller vessels. It was really great to see the support for the RNLI. The harbour side was packed full of people, and lots of cheers of support and applause. So yeah, very, very pleased to be working with the RNLI on that. Things did get a bit cramped in the harbour towards the end. The conditions in Weymouth Bay were quite rough towards the end of the parade, and while we planned intensively with the RNLI, the idea was that the vessels should exit the harbour after the parade and head out to the bay to wait for it to come back in. However, with conditions in the bay deteriorating, it was felt that sending all the vessels out, especially a lot of small vessels, into a very rough Weymouth Bay would have been a more unsafe choice, rather than allowing things to get a bit more congested within the harbour. But with everyone moving so slowly, we saw some real good and courteous moving with caution and showing courteous seamanship. Everyone returned to berth safely without a single incident being recorded. And again, a couple of pictures there showing the lifeboats, old and new, coming through on the parade. Since the last meeting, we've recorded 25 incidents in Weymouth, with vessels being towed due to mechanical failure, some reports of potential theft and antisocial behaviour, graffiti on safety signage, missing life rings, a report of excessive wash, and some diesel on the water. This is something that I highlighted to the consultative group recently, because over the period, the harbour staff, it's apparent to me that through our incident reporting, we've been alerted to a higher number than usual of reports of diesel, which was 9 in total out of the 25 incidents that we've attended. In all cases, the amount of diesel observed has been incredibly small, and we've not been able to identify any one source of the pollution in each case. We know there have been a couple of accidents on the Westway Road, and especially that junction outside of Asda. There was one accident during this period, although we know the emergency services are generally extremely proactive in making sure they do block drains and things like that to prevent any fuel entering the harbour. As we've not been able to identify a vessel source for any spill, we're keeping an eye on the outfalls that are coming into the harbour. And certainly if we're not observing any vessel that's causing any issue, they're one of the first places that we check. Again, at the consultative group, I did urge all members to pass on to their relevant areas, that we would encourage anyone to report any sort of spillage. Accidents do happen. We're in a very good position to assist. We've got all the response gear and the trained staff on site. And again, if we don't know these things are happening, we're not able to take action. We know there are some issues caused occasionally with people pumping out bilge water from vessels. However, I would like to highlight that, of course, in our general directions, there is a specific prohibition on the pumping of bilge water out into the harbour without permission of the Harbour Authority. Again, if we do come across these sort of things, then we will take action where appropriate. Moving on to operations, with our powers of general direction, I was very happy to report that these became live on the 25th of March. The general directions have been given for the purpose of promoting and securing conditions conducive to the safety of persons and protection of property and flora and fauna in the harbour. In compliance with Section 23 of the Harbour Revision Order, formal notice of these directions coming into force was published in locations around the harbour, online and in the Dorset Echo, as well as being available on the Weymouth Harbour website. A physical copy of the directions is available to view at the Harbour Office. Oil spills and response. While we have had, various reports over the last period, no oil spill or pollution events that required external notification or the deployment of spill resources have been attended by us during this period. On the 14th of May, we took part in an incident management exercise in conjunction with Adler and Allen, who are our Tier 2 oil spill contingency contractors. We simulated a Tier 2 level oil spill of diesel fuel, which was approximately simulated 10,000 litres coming from an external source and was predicted to impact on Weymouth Harbour. The exercise comprised of a full test of the harbour's oil spill plan, including notification of relevant bodies, a tabletop of various aspects, and waste control, as well as a full deployment of our containment booms. Alongside the harbour staff, the exercise was observed by representatives from the MCA, the Marine Management Organisation, Environment Agency, Dorset Police and Fire and Rescue, Weymouth Town Council, the Dorset Council's Emergency Planning and Resilience team, and the chairman of the consultative group. So I'd like to say thank you to everyone that took part on that exercise. It was very successful and proved a very good test of our plan and of our capabilities. Learning points to take away, as always, and our oil spill plan is currently being reviewed and is actually out for consultation with key stakeholders prior to its next sign-off by the MCA. Our designated person, James Hannon of ABP Mayor, conducted a Port Marine Safety audit of Weymouth Harbour on the 19th of March. We have seen the draft copy, and a full report of the audit is in the final stage of preparation. I'm happy to report that the harbour was found to be fully compliant with the Port Marine Safety Code, with only a small number of observations being made. Again, James will be here in September to present his findings to members. Moving on to harbour works. And again, the items in this section, they're all aiming to provide, working towards strategic goal 1 of the harbour strategy, which is to maintain safe working harbours and provide high quality infrastructure and facilities. And all the following works are being carried out in pursuit of this goal. For pontoons and access gangway maintenance, in early 2023, we did have a failure of one of our commercial pontoons where the pontoon became jammed on a rising tide and ended up tilting at a severe angle. Increased inspection regimes have identified further areas requiring immediate repair, and in particular the waiting pontoon to the east of the town bridge where repairs are happening at the moment. While the ongoing maintenance and repair of pontoons and the infrastructure is included in our asset management plan, we have accelerated some of these repairs to ensure continuous safe operation. None of the repairs are predicted to have a notable impact on harbour reserves. As part of the accelerated repair programme, 4 of the access gangways around the harbour have undergone various repairs over the winter period with all sorts of welding and repainting going on, and they're all 6 gangways around the harbour are in excellent condition ahead of what we hope to be a very busy season and lots of use of the pontoons. The Weymouth Quay regeneration project, at the time of writing this report, the construction works are in the final stage. A handover has very recently taken place of the Weymouth Quay project, which I'm very happy to announce. There are some still snagging works going on. Delays to the project have primarily centred around the provision of electrical infrastructure and connection to the main grid. It is unfortunate at this time that we do not yet have a date from SSE to connect the site to the grid. We are still trying to work with them as much as possible to get this pushed forward. The installation of the fuel pontoon, which has been delayed pending approval of the MMO certificate, we undertook some work with ABP Mayor to conduct an ecological appraisal following some concerns raised by Natural England. That work's all been completed, and Natural England have now got up until the 15th of this month to come back with their response. We've had positive responses from other key stakeholders, and we're confident the MMO permission for the installation of this pontoon is very imminent. Now the major surfacing works have taken place, taken place across the site. We've got on with the line painting, which delineates areas for vehicle movement and providing extra car parking spaces on the Peninsula car park. CCTV and lighting columns have been installed, and various ancillary structures, the switch rooms, ice-making facilities, and the chilled stores have all been completed. Prior to the installation of the solar panel array, it was identified the original location contained asbestos within the roof tiles of the building. Through further surveys, it was ascertained that none of the existing harbour buildings were actually suitable, either due to asbestos contamination or concerns around the ability to roof areas. It's now, to make sure we keep costs down and to ensure we do include these panels within the project, it's planned that the panels are going to be installed within the secure commercial port area, and these panels will be resited in future when further development of the area takes place. The installation of these panels provides a source of power that will be offset against the costs of operating the facilities there and hopefully work towards reducing further costs to fishermen. All works to date have been carried out to a very high standard by the contractor. The interface between the contractor and Dorset Council has worked extremely well, with communication taking place regularly. It's contributed to an overall feeling of successful teamwork and partnership working. Fences around the project have been upgraded to enhance public safety and provide a more secure commercial area. Automated gates being utilised on the one-way system, allowing vehicles to move through the fishing port area, and CCTV coverage has been reviewed. Following a change of placement design stage, we've achieved better coverage with less cameras and a bit of a saving there, which is nice. We have gone with an additional fuel pump to the fuel facility to ensure that we're providing the best service we can at busy times. And we're hoping that it's not only going to provide a much-needed service for vessels in Weymouth, but also attract more visitors to the port and subsequently increase visitor spend in the town. Now the site has been handed back to us. We're working immediately, of course, on installing the health and safety signage, waste reception areas, which includes a space for the Weymouth and Portland Marine Litter Project to operate. We're also we're moving forward with installing public realm items such as benches, information boards on the Nothe Fort, Fish Landing Quay, the Pleasure Pier and the Sea Hives, and some low impact lighting for the Pleasure Pier, and a memorial for fishermen lost at sea. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Weymouth Town Council, who have been working with us and are leading on matters relating to sponsorship, memorialisation and maintenance of the benches, along with financial contribution to the installation of the 18 benches across the site. Works on Wall 4, works to repair and strengthen Wall 4 are continuing. A full report is being presented today by my colleague Matt Penny. I can report there's been no effect on harbour operations or any prevention of access to the North Quay Marina during the works. We welcome the reinstatement of the car park at the old council office site, as it provides much needed and convenient parking for our marina customers. Our commercial berths continue to be well used by the current berth holders. The tug Kingston, which was owned by Aquatic Towage, recently suffered catastrophic engine failure while working away from Weymouth. The vessel has actually come back to Weymouth recently, and we're happy to welcome Kingston back. During the delivery of the Weymouth Kiwi Generation project, as the access to the commercial berthing became limited, we did use the commercial pontoons in the port, the commercial vessels in the port were berthed alongside our visitor pontoons. The vessels are now moving back into the berths at the far eastern end of the Alpha pontoon, which frees up space for visiting vessels. There's been no other notable commercial traffic during this reporting period, and no acts of pilotage have taken place during this reporting period either. A couple of significant events relevant to harbour operations. We've been through most of those already now, so the next one's really coming up for us. The big ones are the Seafood Festival in September, with Ironman taking place the weekend after. And that's my report. Thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Ed. I believe we have a hand up from Councillor Belinda Bowden from Lyme Regis. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting, Belinda, but please go ahead and make your comment.
Hi, don't worry. It's Belinda Bowden, Lyme Regis and Charmouth ward member. I was just wondering if I could ask James, please. I've actually had an email this morning about you mentioned that the dredging contractors were coming back, but I've had an email this morning from the town council asking if I know about it, because we've been told that there was an issue that they were coming back to fix in Lyme, but they're not now going to do that. So I was just wondering if James could give us an update, please.
Yeah, the the plan is they're coming back to do works at Bridport, and we were going to make the opportunity to use them while they were back to do some works at Lyme, but we've decided not to proceed with that, and we're just doing the works at Bridport.
Can you explain what the problem was, please?
It's mainly down to licensing, so we're looking at, in talks with the MMO to look at future works and licensing options.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Belinda. Yes, Richard, you have a question?
Yes, two questions. One specifically to Weymouth and one general. I did see the lifeboat parade, and it's fantastic to see. Really good outcome, and lovely to celebrate. But as you commented, the leisure boats at the back of the parade got very congested. Could I ask you to undertake a review, learn, and improve exercise? We don't have these parades very often, but it would be useful just to put that on our books that in terms of any sort of learning that came out of that. And my second question, at our last meeting, we have an action on the marine safety plan for introduction of a new accident and incident reporting database. I know we've made some significant improvements already. We were going to give that a target date. Could I ask that that target date is brought to the next meeting?
Yes, thank you very much, Richard. With regard to the RNLI parade of sail, absolutely. I was very happy to work with the RNLI and work very closely with them on the planning. But as always, best laid plans and the weather have their effect. But yeah, we'll absolutely take that away and look forward to working on further parades in future. Thank you. With regard to the incidents reporting system, all three harbours are reporting incidents, and they have our websites host the portal for incident reporting, which can not only be used by members of the public, but it's also used by harbour staff. One of the things that I am trying to work on, and I will put my hand up and say I just haven't, I'm afraid, quite got to it yet, is looking at how we analyse the data that we have got. We are collecting the data. We do have the incident data, and both James and I, review the incidents as they come through so that we can take action as appropriate on individual incidents. However, I am very aware that, I would like to be analysing trends better. Take the point. We will absolutely get a date on that one and make sure we get it done. Thank you.
Thank you all for those comments. Please can I ask the committee then to note the updates from the Harbour Masters. Then we will move on to item 8, which Matt Penny is going to do for an engineering update. Please, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Matthew Penny, I'm the Service Manager for Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management at the Council, and we support the harbours with their infrastructure needs as well as delivering our own coastal protection duties. If we're starting in Bridport Harbour, dredging takes place in Bridport. Dredging operations were completed before the Easter weekend this year, but upon receipt of post-dredge survey, which is standard practice, it was discovered that the dredging depth had not been achieved as we previously thought or were informed. And our coastal risk management team and the harbour team are in the process of discussing the matter with the contractor to return and complete the dredging to the acceptable depth. That hopefully should happen imminently. Inspections and repair within Bridport Harbour. As a matter of course, the coastal risk management team inspect, maintain, repair assets, prioritising them within our constrained available repair and maintenance budgets. And we work closely with the harbour team on that. That follows generally rounds of inspections that we carry out annually. And this year, our scheduled inspections are due to take place during the summer and autumn months. Harbour Wall A and B are my next two items, and if you refer to the location map appended to this report, you'll see where they are located. Harbour Wall A is showing signs of settlement, which is being monitored by the coastal risk management team. The necessary work has been assessed and preliminary cost estimates for budget planning purposes have been done. Works are already included in the Council Capital Programme, and the necessary business cases have been submitted and approved. The timetable for delivery is listed below within that segment, and we are exploring the options of combining the works for Wall A and B with regards to savings and efficiencies realised by the council. Harbour Wall B stabilisation repair. The construction project is due to be undertaken in 2 phases. The first phase, as has already been referenced, is the emergency construction works, which is aimed at stabilising the wall. And these were completed in February and March this year, and the kiosk opened before the Easter weekend. This approach is aimed at deferring the main construction works until the end of 2024, as listed in the table below, whilst ensuring a closure of the adjacent areas, i.e. the footpath along the top of the wall. But the kiosk areas crucially remain open. Phase 2 will commence at the end of 2024 and will involve the actual full repair and refurbishment of the wall, detailed design of which we don't have at this time. However, should there be any signs of movement, which we're continue monitoring, and potential failure, we may have to step in, although I'd like to say that we are not anticipating that at this time. There are no signs that we need to do that. We are continuing contact with kiosk owners alongside our harbour colleagues and the council property team to discuss those works and its future impacts. And we'll continue to inform the wider public as the project progresses. If I move on to Lyme Regis Harbour, so much like update for Bridport, the main change or difference there is that unfortunately we had 2 failed attempts by the harbour team to remove the chains in the summer pontoon area, which prevented us from actually dredging within that area and reclaiming that sand for the beach. FSIM engineers and the harbour master are investigating ways to mitigate this effect, and I believe the question from Councillor Borden referencing that. Inspections and repairs, very much like Bridport, same approach taken to inspections, prioritisations, and of our maintenance budgets. And like Bridport, the inspections, the scheduled asset inspections will take place this summer and autumn. The cob repairs, so the cob structure is obviously an ancient, unique structure in need of continual maintenance, and the current repairs to it previously have involved repairs undertaken due to storm damage. We have put in place an emergency response plan for any significant impact caused by storm damage in future, until hopefully the below phase 5 scheme can be implemented at a future date. There is no closure on the cob at the moment that I'm aware of. A coastal risk management engineering inspection along the seaward base of the cob buildings has identified that the supporting wall is in poor condition. We have sought specialist contractor advice on this matter. We are awaiting that report, but the initial findings and report back to me as of yesterday was that there are no urgent works required, but there are need for some minor intervention works to prevent further deterioration of that wall. However, I would like to wait for the full report before I make further comment. The Lyme Regis Environmental Improvement Scheme Phase 5 comprises a civil engineering scheme to strengthen and stabilise the cob structure in both its harbour function as a harbour arm, but also its coastal protection function as a breakwater structure, protecting the other phases of that scheme. So there have been phases 1 to 4 previously. This is phase 5 of that scheme. Currently, there is a funding shortfall, as has been previously referenced in this meeting, to deliver the scheme, which is described within the outline business case. Engineers, we are working as a project team hard to try and find further funding for that, and discussions are ongoing actually with funding bodies. In the meantime, we're also undertaking design analysis and investigations with an intent to reduce the cost of the scheme. So we're looking to reduce the cost of the scheme, but also find additional funding to close that gap. And that's our strategic approach to try and deliver the scheme going forward. Engagement with the public stakeholders, commercial users, as has been referenced in this meeting, is ongoing and will be throughout the delivery of the scheme. We're currently in the optioneering and design stage of the project, as well as in-depth discussions with our licensing colleagues from Natural England, Historic England and Marine Management Organisation. Construction is still scheduled to commence in autumn 2025. In Weymouth Harbour, the inspections are due to take place in 2024 at the summer months of this year, but there have been some repairs that are ongoing. Stone pier surfacing repairs have been identified and are awaiting contractor availability to commence. Small void repairs to the stone pier wall at the foreshore of the shingle beach on the southern side is currently working for completion before the summer school holidays, pending contractor availability. And replacement of missing grab rails and ladders are to be discussed with the harbour team and progressed. Along Wall 2, adjacent to the Nose Cafe, a missing block has been identified and is awaiting repair options and prices. And it's a good example, those items are a good example of how we work with our harbour colleagues to deliver the repairs in the harbour that both the harbour team require and we within FCERN do as well. The item C there is Weymouth Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management Scheme Phase 1. This is the broader flood and coastal defence scheme that is we are attempting to develop for Weymouth Harbour and Esplanade areas. Confirmation has been received of external local levy funding to investigate the impacts of surface water flooding within the scheme. Baseline surface water modelling and beach recession modelling is commenced. The geotechnical and hydrological assessments are being progressed, and a high-level review of the viability of a proposed tidal barrier is underway. We'll obviously work closely with our harbour colleagues on that when we get closer to the outcome and recommendations option. Any tidal barrier, for interest purposes though, within the strategy for this scheme is not scheduled until between 2060 and 2070. So it is not imminent. The latest indication is that a substantial funding gap can be expected due to high construction costs, inflation, and grant funding eligibility. We are experiencing this, as I've referenced on other schemes, but we're experiencing this on a number of our schemes we're delivering at the moment. A review of the appraisal approach and preferred design options are underway to identify maximum grant funding benefits and efficiencies. And a partnership funding strategy is in development to address the funding shortfall. And the table below gives the anticipated timeline of delivery. Item D is Harbour Walls F and G, which are the two walls on the peninsula. The project is currently is primarily funded by the Levelling Up Fund, and Dorset Council, under the Memorandum of Understanding, is responsible to contribute towards the shortfall, the budget shortfall of delivering those walls. A business case to that effect has been submitted internally. The poor condition of the structures requires urgent construction works, and the project team are progressing planning, design, and eventual construction at pace. This aligns with the spending requirements of the LUF Memorandum of Understanding. Harbour Wall 4 North Quay has been referenced by the Harbour Master already. Construction work has commenced and is progressing now post failure, partial collapse of the wall. That situation was managed and the necessary actions taken. That area is now under repair as well, and the project, because of that, has experienced delays and an uplift in cost, but construction is proposed and due to end by the end of July. And my last item is Weymouth Strategic Flood Risk Assessment Level 2. This study provides a flood risk evidence for Weymouth in support of the development of the Dorset Local Plan and provides the base data for the aforementioned FCERN scheme outline business case. The work has involved modelling all sources of flooding within Weymouth and around the harbour, and the planning policy team has now completed and published this document. So I'll be removing reference to that item in future papers, Chair. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Richard, do you have a question, please?
I'm conscious there's been a lot of storm damage this year, and I also, but I note in your report that you use a phrase, you use a paragraph a couple of times about revenue constraints, meaning you need to be selective on wall repairs. Can I just ask, does that mean we're cutting? Does that mean there's a delay in preventative maintenance, or are you simply reprioritising some of the risks as new issues come forward?
Yeah, that's it. We do have funding constraints in our revenue and maintenance budgets, repair and maintenance budgets, and it's a continual case, of reprioritising them as damage arises. So we have a schedule of works laid out every year, but obviously you're right, storm damage will occur, which we can't anticipate, and that may mean we have to reprioritise that work accordingly to fit those budgets.
No, thank you for that. So still on a risk-based process, which is fine. I think a few meetings ago, I raised the issue of just sort of more frequent severe weather impacting our risk profile, and I think you went away, and at some point in the future, you'll just bring that risk, that assessment of change in risk to this committee. But I think that was due on an annual basis, but I think it's worth us just being aware of that risk profile changing.
Have you anything else to add, Matthew?
Nothing more to add other than, I believe at that time when we discussed it, I was going to work with the Harbour teams to try and put that together. So yeah, there's still something we need to work together to deliver.
Ed, you'd like to add something, please?
Yes, thank you very much. Just in addition to that one, Matt and I have discussed briefly the idea that there are absolutely areas where the harbour could look to help financially with some of the smaller repairs. We get a huge amount of help, not only in expertise but in financial assistance, because of the large number of walls in the harbour that, of course, form part of the primary flood defence. In specific reference to part of Matt's report about the Stone Pier, I've actually got a meeting coming up on the Friday the 28th, which is when I have a regular update meeting with the coastal risk team, so people from Matt's team, where we've actually got the items on the Stone Pier down for specific discussion. So yeah, as Matt says, we are working together where we can, and as often prioritising work is one of the things we have to do very regularly.
Thank you very much, Ed. On that note, then, if we could please note the report from the FCERM. Oh, sorry. Councillor Bryan, I must apologise. I didn't see your hand then.
I thought you didn't want me to talk. First of all, can I place on record my thanks to Matt and his team for all the work they have done, because this has been a very difficult few years. We've got a series of areas. We've got a number of areas where actions could have been taken earlier, but weren't, and I'm talking pre-LGR, and we're now having to deal with those as we go forward. Matt has been very helpful in my previous role of maintaining the walls, but also trying to improve them. I've got a couple of questions, if I may ask of him, and that's that we heard from Ed earlier about contamination that can end up in the water. And I still have concerns over the flooding that happens on spring tides round about the bridge area. And I seek confirmation that when that water is returning back into the harbour as the tide goes down, there is a method of collecting the debris that will be picked up, be it oil or just loose litter. The other area of concern for me, and it should be on the risk register, is that the work that is being done under levelling up and the 20 million that we receive from government will be in danger of having to be returned if we don't complete the exercise as stated in the project. That risk is needs to be looked at and confirmed as to whether it needs to be on this risk register or whether it needs to be on Dorset Council's risk register going forward, because we're spending a substantial amount of money. I think it's circa 2 million on the walls, and it would be it would make me very uncomfortable if that money has to be returned, to say the least. All in all, some great work that's been done, because I know the problems that have been in Lyme. We've had them in Bridport, and obviously we've got problems that we're needing to overcome in the Weymouth area. So congratulations to the team, and perhaps Matt can put my mind at rest over the money.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bryan. Matt, if I could ask you to comment, please.
Yeah, certainly. If I can take them in reverse order, Chair. So the LUF funding, we're acutely aware of the deadline for that and the need to deliver the harbour wall infrastructure, which is our element of it. It isn't the sole purpose of the LUF funding. There are other elements to it as well. But from our element, which is the harbour wall delivery, we are very confident that Wall 4 will be delivered. Obviously, that's due end of July, so that's well within the time frame. And given the discussions that our colleagues have had with central government, with DLUC, we are also confident that we can deliver Walls F and G. With construction works, extensive construction works like F and G, I will caveat and say there are no guarantees. We can plan as much as we can, but there may be delays. However, within that, we have float and space within the programme to deliver within the deadline of LUF at this present time. So that hopefully addresses that concern. With respect to the bridge, Councillor Bryan, is that Western Bridge you refer to? Can I just ask you to clarify that for me?
It's actually the lifting bridge area where that floods. I've been there with Dr. Ken Buchan, where we nearly had to wade through the water to get back to our cars. It's just a bit of a concern.
Yeah,
Yeah, the area of the town, the town bridge in particular, where the roadway passes underneath the bridge, as we all know, is one of the areas that's particularly low around the harbour. And yes, it does flood on every spring tide. This is an area that again was raised by the chairman of the consultative group, where a repair is urgently needed to the drains underneath the bridge. And we would welcome some highways input on the deadline there. With regards to the raised question about pollution from the roadways, that's something that is much harder to control. Generally, in my understanding of it, that newer drainage systems absolutely have some bits put in place to try and protect from any any oils or other pollution and debris coming off the roads into the harbour. But it's something that we all have to keep a very close eye on, and certainly the harbour teams, the emergency services are all very proactive in making sure that we do block drains with sorbent materials wherever we know there to be an issue. But yeah, spring tides around the country are cause a consistent issue for pollution and problems. Yeah.
Councillor Bryan.
Yeah, thank you for the responses. Can I just ask one further question, if I may, Chair? And that's that the most recent Environmental Agency report highlights the fact that water levels are on the rise quite dramatically. And I'm hopeful that the work we are doing is taking into account the latest report. I'm not sure whether it's in final version yet or still in draft, but having had sight of it, I do have concerns that whatever we do needs to be enough to cope with the future as well as the current.
Yes, Matthew, you'd like to reply?
Yeah, I can just confirm that with the development of our business case for the Weymouth FCRM scheme, climate change and predictions for, say, climate change are taken into account for those forecasts for wall raising, etc., and defence level. With respect to the harbour walls that are coming forward before that, F&G, etc., they go through a process of permitting from the Environment Agency, so we have to apply to them for permit to carry out the works. So as part of that discussion and process, they will then inform us of the required levels that we have to build to. So it should be covered by that process.
Thank you very much for all those comments and feedbacks. So as I was saying, if we could please note then that the committee to note the FCERM update. Moving on to item 9 is the budget monitoring report. First of all, we'll hear from James Radcliffe, representing for Lyme Regis and Bridport, and then Claire Connolly from Weymouth. So after you, James.
Thank you, Chair. The budget monitoring report figures can be seen in Appendix 2 for Bridport. Currently, there's no forecasted variances to the budget for Bridport, and the predicted transfer to reserves is going to be in the region of 102,000. For Lyme Regis, the figures can be seen on Appendix 3, and the end-of-year reserve move, there will be no end-of-year reserve movements because the harbour is still funded by DC by around 32,000. It was quite a short report for this time of year, but it's everything's predicted to be on budget currently.
Yes, Claire, if you'd like to go ahead, please.
Morning. Thank you, Chair. So the budget monitoring for 24-25, the purpose of the report is to set out the current forecasts. At this early stage in the financial year, there are no sort of significant variances to report. There are a couple of areas that could have an impact on the budget later on through the year. These are highlighted at paragraph 3.5. They were reported in HM's report, but generally the weather, a sort of slowish start to the season. We also have a long-term sickness that's going to require some backfill. So although not reported, it's just something that we're aware of and will be monitoring. We wanted to sort of use this report to sort of highlight the way that we're going to use the reserves in the future. Previously, there was mainly one big pot of reserves with a few smaller ones. What we intend to do, and what has been agreed within the business plan, is to split them out into separate reserves. This will help us give sort of better financial clarity, show where and how the reserves are committed, and also it allows us to better identify funds for future projects and investments. So the reserves are split up into 5 different pots, which are shown in the report. There's also a table that summarises the financial breakdown of each reserve and details the sort of development and project works for the next 5 years. Obviously, as we go through the year, we'll be providing more detail on each of those projects. Yep, that's the end of my report. If I've got any questions.
Thank you very much, Claire, for that and for your report. So the end of item 9, again, we will note the forecast for Bridport, Lyme Regis and Weymouth Harbours. Thank you for that for 24-25. Item 10 on the agenda is the Harbours year-end report. And again, I'll hand over to James Radcliffe. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the year-end actuals for Bridport are seen on Appendix 1, and the expenditure overall was just over 102,000. And the main variances to the budget were the expenditure on the car park management fees, although this was covered by the car park income, overspend due to excess on budgeted hours, and the pay award increase. Slight increase on premises cost, a minor overspend on transport cost, which includes the vehicle repairs and maintenance and fuel cost, There was a significant overspend on supplies and services, and that's mainly caused by the dredging, which was last year saw us do 1.5 dredges in that financial year, and overspend on third-party contractor costs, and this mainly made up with pontoon maintenance, the cost of buying in harbour mooring chain and cleaning up after storms. For the income, for Bridport, it was 57,000 favourable. This was saving on the MRP budget, and the significant surplus income was by the car park fees. The reserve movements for Bridport were budgeted to be 79,000, but in the end were 33,000, giving us a end of year reserve of 127,000. For Lyme Regis, the actuals can be seen on Appendix 2. Expenditure overall was 23,000 adverse. Again, this was due to excess on budgeted hours, overspend on transport costs, mainly down to the JCB repairs, and major overspend on contractors' budgets, mainly down to the AMPR system, but that also produced an income. The revenue budget income was 40,000 favourable, and it was surplus income across all the budget lines of mooring fees, the hire facilities, launching fees and storage fees. As Lyme is still runs at a slight loss and is covered by Dorset Council, there will be no reserves transfer to reserves. The reserve balance is currently 177,000, but is committed to the building of the store, which is currently ongoing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, James. Claire Connolly, please, for Weymouth.
So the year-end actuals for Weymouth are given at Appendix 3. It's been a successful year for us, and the financial picture for Weymouth remains healthy. There was a budgeted surplus of £716,000, and this has been achieved, with an additional surplus of £351,000 being transferred into the reserves. Of this surplus, 146,000 is an amount that will be carried forward into the new financial year. This is for a number of projects that weren't able to be completed in the current year. Variances related to income, they're all detailed in paragraph 3.4, but sort of some key areas worth highlighting. There's been an overall reduction in income from commercial berthing. In 2022, Griffin Towage went into administration, which meant the number of tugs berths with us reduced. But more recently, there's a local firm, Carlin Boat Charters. They've taken an additional commercial berth. This means the commercial area remains busy, with commercial vessels berthed up there, owned and operated by Aquatic Towage Marine and Masterplan Offshore. Other commercial lets around the harbour remain stable. The income from annual and temporary marina berths for last year exceeded our budget targets, with a notable increase from both temporary and short-term berthing. Income from slipway launches and the sale of water sports permits is down on last year, but it is comparable to a 3-year average. Infrastructure is now in place so that electricity that is taken by larger visiting vessels can be charged per unit. It was previously a fixed night fee, so this has resulted in a better way of recharging and actually recovering much more of our costs. And there's also been an increase in income from harbour-owned car parks. There has been underspends across most areas in our expenditure. The only exception with this is on our employee costs. As James has said, that this is largely due to the effect of the pay award, but for Weymouth there was also a settlement of payments made to members of staff who work bank holidays. There's savings have been made against insurance costs. Whilst there are some uncertainties whilst setting budgets for energy costs, year-end actuals are actually on target for electricity and gas, but there has been an increased spend on water. Some of this is attributed to the Weymouth Quay regeneration project. Cost for business rates is lower than previous years, and this is the outcome of some recent reviews. There's also been a planned saving against seasonal staff and savings made against marketing and advertising. The cost of this has reduced in recent years as social media marketing has been taken advantage of, so that will be reflected in future budgets. The asset management plan, there's an update on the projects at paragraph 3.8, which also lists the number of projects that have been carried forward. And finally, paragraph 3.11 provides an update on the harbour reserves. This ring-fence balance is largely committed to long-term investments in the harbour. A significant financial investment is planned, which is given in more detail in the business plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire, for that update. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor Bryan.
Sorry about this, Chairman. I'm trying to think of the line. Anyway, it shows net car parking income. I'd be interested to see this broken down by the 3 car parks that Harbours actually control. And I'm very careful on the word control, because under the Harbour Revision Order, they are harbour properties. So can't be affected as far as the car park charges are concerned, as I understand is the case. But I'd like to see what the income is on the car parks, and I'd like to see that from all of the car parks that come under the Harbour's control. I think it would be helpful to understand where this money is coming in from, because it's a substantial amount of the extra money that we're moving towards reserves. But I've got to say, looking at the numbers, I congratulate all the Harbour management on the way they've handled the last year. It has been difficult circumstances for them, and I think the numbers actually show that the work they've done is actually producing the right results. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bryan. Does anybody want to come back on that? Claire.
Yeah, certainly for the next report, it wouldn't be a problem. We can separate out the parking income across the 3 car parks. No problem.
Thank you very much, Claire. And recommendation is to note the budget forecast for, to the end of year actuals for Bridport, Lyme Regis and Weymouth for the year 23-24. So if we could note that, please. Thank you. Moving forward, item 11 is forward plan, and I believe Ken Buchan is going to be presenting this today. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So on top of the normal standing items that we will have at the next meeting, Ed will be presenting an update on progress within the Harbours business plan. We had looked to do that at this meeting, but we've postponed that clearly following the elections so that new members of the committee could become more familiar with the strategy and the business plan before doing that. So that will be coming up on at the September meeting. We have also got programmed in a discussion around about potential for an update of the Harbour Revision Order at that point as well. And there will be some discussion at the Harbour Consultative Group prior to that meeting. And there'll be some feedback from those discussions that the members of this group can have more context to what is being proposed there. So that's essentially 2 items that we have coming up in September. What I would say, if any of the committee members have any items that they would wish to be brought forward at future meetings, please let myself or Ed know, and we'll programme them into the forward plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comments at this stage? Thank you very much, Ken, for presenting that. moving on, item 12, urgent items. We do not have any urgent items today. Exempt business. There is no exempt business. So I believe the date of our next meeting will be the 25th of September. And time is now 11:25. And this brings to an end our meeting for today. Thank you all very much for attending. I hope you've enjoyed me being the chairman. Thank you.